I'm gonna get right into it. A lot of media sources have been going wild with the fact that Trump suggested that illegal immigrants were the reason that Hillary Clinton's popular vote margin was so high. I will admit it sounds a little ridiculous and unnecessary. However, what I'm about to show you is absolutely hilarious and pretty embarrassing. So here's a 2017 article about it by the Washington Post. The headline is Trump calls for a major investigation into voter fraud after Sean Spicer was grilled on why he hadn't. I'm going to read a paragraph from that article. Once you get past the lack of factual basis for Trump's strange and incredible claim, this is what really doesn't make sense about it. Trump is alleging that as many as 3.6% of the votes cast in a 2016 contest decided by even fewer votes may have been illegitimate. He's saying that the number of illegal votes may have been larger than the populations of 38 states. He's saying that as many as 30 to 40% of the estimated 11 million undocumented immigrants in the United States cast ballots. Where could Trump have got that crazy and wild idea that illegals could not only register to vote, but also influence elections? Maybe from the 2014 Washington Post article entitled, Could Non-Citizens Decide the November Election? I have to read another paragraph from this article, and it is absolutely hilarious. How many non-citizens participate in U.S. elections? More than 14% of non-citizens in both 2008 and 2010 samples indicated that they were registered to vote. Furthermore, some of these non-citizens voted. Our best guess, based upon extrapolations from the portion of the sample with a verified vote, is that 6.4% of non-citizens voted in 2008 and 2.2% of non-citizens voted in 2010. Are you ready for this next part? It's hilarious. Because non-citizens tend to favor Democrats, Obama won more than 80% of the votes of non-citizens in the 2008 CCES sample. We find that this participation was largely enough to plausibly account for Democratic victories in the few close elections. Non-citizen votes could have given Senate Democrats the pivotal 60th vote needed to overcome filibusters in order to pass health care reform and other Obama administration priorities in the 111th Congress. This is absolutely hilarious. So they're suggesting that not only can non-citizens register to vote, but they can vote, they have voted, and that they've influenced elections, tend to favor Democrats, and possibly been the reason that Obama was able to pass his health care reform. This is hilarious.
I would just like to know what you can say to reassure us that this election will not be rigged or stolen.
Well, I tell you what, it helps in Ohio that we got Democrats in charge of the machines. But look, I come from Chicago, so I want to be honest. It's not as if it's just Republicans who have monkeyed around with elections in the past. Sometimes Democrats have too.
Millennials, dreamers, undocumented citizens, and I call them citizens because they contribute to this country, are fearful of voting. So if I vote, will immigration know where I live? Will they come for my family and deport us?
Not true.
Okay.
And the reason is, first of all, when you vote, you are a citizen yourself, and there is not a situation where the voting rolls somehow are transferred over and people start investigating, etc. The sanctity of the vote is strictly confidential.
There's a difference between attacking the press, attacking the freedom of the press, and just knowing that these news organizations are biased and incompetent. You would think they would be a little more careful after being exposed last month for a fake news story about Russian hacking.
By now, you might have heard that these Russian hackers attempted to access the power grid in Vermont. The only problem with the story? It's not true. But this fake news story was published by the Post.
We watched it happen this whole election. During the primaries, these trusted news sources were completely shilling for Hillary Clinton. Meanwhile, they were sabotaging and blackballing Bernie Sanders. After the primaries, they were sabotaging and blackballing Donald Trump. I respect freedom of the press, but it's clear that most of these news organizations are just shilling for corporate Democrats. Do I think Donald Trump's exaggerating? Sure. Do I think it's necessary? Probably not. Do a lot of things about him worry me? Absolutely. I'm going to keep a close eye on science, net neutrality, clean water, pipelines, and a lot of other issues being talked about right now. It's the press's job to provide journalism, and journalism has been virtually non-existent. Once again, I would never attack the freedom of the press. However, I would like to see competency from the press, and I have not seen that thus far. I get that you want to bring Donald Trump down at all costs, but I have to be honest, it was your newspapers, it was the trusted news sources, it was the exaggerations from headlines, it was the lies that even made me sit in the first place and realize that Donald Trump wasn't nearly as bad as you were saying he was. If you want to help the people and you want to get your way, you'll do so with real news stories and honest journalism. Try it sometime.
Keep my mind about the stress, so I always beat my sickness. I don't trust no corporation, cause they lie like politicians. I don't